Collier is an author, illustrator, and an accomplished artist. He usually uses watercolor and collage techniques in his illustrations. He grew up in Southern Maryland. Bryan loved to look at children's books when he was younger. His mom was a Head Start teacher and brought home lots of books for him to read. Some of his favorites were Whistle for Willie, Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats, Harold the Purple Crayon, and Where the Wild Things Are. He didn't like to read the books, he just wanted to look at the pictures. Collier started to paint as a teenager. He was supposed to play football in college, but made a last-minute decision to pursue art instead. Collier received a scholarship through a national talent competition through the Pratt Institute, which he later graduated from with honors. One of the main reasons Collier became an author and illustrator was that when he went to the bookstore with his children, there weren't any books that looked like them or talked about their history and culture. Bryan wanted to change this. His work has won the Coretta Scott King Award, received the Caldecott Honor, and the Ezra Keats Award. Collier states, "The best part of being an illustrator is the discovery of telling a story a different way every time." He loves the endless possibilities that come with being an illustrator. One of Collier's favorite books is Uptown. This is the first book that he wrote and illustrated. He has stated that, "In this book, I was discovering how to tell a story. I was telling about something I knew, which is Harlem. I was discovering and rediscovering it." Bryan was a program director at the Horizon Studio in Harlem for young struggling artists. Another of his favorites is Martin's Big Words. This book tells a story about the Civil Rights Movement and Martin Luther King. Before creating actual illustrations, Bryan takes a photo shoot of his family or friends acting out the story. He believes having people act out the story shows the images that imitate the scene. Bryan has done many illustrations for the poet Nikki Giovanni. One of the most famous books the two have worked on is called Rosa. Rosa is made up of watercolor and collage pictures. This book tells the story from the moment Rosa Parks refused to give up her bus seat. This book won the Coretta Scott King Award. Bryan did a lot of research and took a long time deciding how the drawing should look. He even visited one of Rosa's best friends in Montgomery.
Rhyme or reason on what goes more, the watercolor or the collage. It's just sort of what feels right. And I sort of feel my way through on how this book should look and how it should feel. The research that I did for the book was I went to Montgomery, and I had an escort when I got down there. And what this gentleman did was he took me around to where Rosa lived, where she worked. You know, she brought me to friends that knew Rosa, and her best friend, Johnny Carr, Miss Johnny Carr. He brought me to her house, and Miss Carr sat me down and said, "Young brother, this is what this was about." And she talked to me. And she just told me her relationship with Rosa, how close they were. And they've known each other since they were children, you know. And
to hear more about Rosa's story. Nikki and Bryan also worked on Lincoln and Douglas, An American Friendship, together. This book shows an unusual friendship between two great American leaders. During this time, racial tensions were high and racial equality wasn't established. Lincoln and Douglas went against this and worked alongside one another to reach a common goal. Once again, Collier used exquisite watercolors to tell the story. Bryan has illustrated several other books. He worked closely with the author Doreen Rappert. She wrote the book Freedom River. This picture book is about a true story of John Parker, who bought his own freedom and helped others gain theirs through the Underground Railroad. The collages and watercolor used in these pictures use deep blues and browns to add drama to the illustrations. The pair have also worked on the books John's Secret Dreams, The John Lennon Story, and Martin's Big Words, The Life of Dr. Martin Luther King. Bryan has recently worked on the book Barack Obama, Son of Promise and Child of Hope, with Nikki Grimes. Collier has done his famous illustrations for Visiting Langston by Willie Perdimo, Dave the Potter, in which Bryan's illustrations showed the story of a potter that was born and died in slavery, These Hands by Hope Lynn Pierce, and I'm Your Child, God, Prayers from Our Children by Mariah Wright. Bryan finds a lot of his inspiration from students, teachers, and librarians. He loves to talk to them about his books and art. Collier says, "I ask the students to talk to me and to talk to each other about how they feel and about their own experiences. Basically, I ask them to tell their own story through art."